Edward Richmond, a recently arrested J6 defendant previously convicted of shooting an unarmed, handcuffed man in the head, was not ordered to be detained and held for pretrial by a magistrate in Louisiana, so the government is appealing. Richmond has a previous manslaughter conviction for shooting a handcuffed man in the head. On January 6, he brought a metal baton to the Capitol and used to commit brutal assaults on the officers. When the FBI arrested him, an arrest that was complicated by Richmond's efforts to live an untraceable life off the grid, they discovered an assault rifle in his closet. Richmond posed both a danger and a risk of non-appearance, and the court should detain him pending trial. The government is concerned that under growing pressure, he may snap again. Yes, trying to live off the grid with an assault rifle, previous manslaughter charge, and they don't think it's worth detaining him and holding him? Let's get through it. Let's see what's going on here. The court is familiar with the background regarding January 6th attack of the U.S. Capitol. Richmond came to the Capitol dressed in full tactical gear, carrying a baton. As captured on CCTV and body cam footage, Richmond attacked officers in the Lower West Terrace Tunnel, the scene of the most violent battles on January 6th. Richmond stayed at the front of the mob fighting against police for almost 2 hours, from approximately 3:15 p.m. to 4:57 p.m. During this time, Richmond participated in the efforts against police inside the tunnel, trying to break the police line. Richmond then carried out a police riot shield from the tunnel into the mob, passed back police helmets to the mob as well. Richmond helped take furniture out of broken windows from the Capitol through what appears to be a whiteboard into the tunnel at officers. He also carried a large wooden plank positioned against officers in the tunnel. There's all these different videos and photos. They have so much of this guy. He's everywhere. By 4:57, Richmond approached the tunnel again, raised his baton up high, poised to attack officers before bringing it down on officers at least twice. And yeah, look at that. In 2004, Richmond, after joining the United States Army, was convicted of manslaughter after shooting a handcuffed Iraqi cow herder in the head with his rifle. Richmond was sentenced to 3 years of military confinement and dishonorably discharged. He was also previously convicted of disturbing the peace in 2000, resisting officers 2000, driving under the influence 2001. He was also arrested but not convicted of cocaine and marijuana possession 2001 and resisting arrest 2001. Richmond appears to have been living under the radar. The government understands he works for his father but has no income that the FBI was able to trace. His current driver's license and utilities such as cell phone list addresses different from his apartment the FBI ultimately identified as his residence. The FBI also attempted to find Richmond through their mail contact, but there were no packages addressed to his current address and no P.O. box. Eventually, through physical surveillance, the government was able to locate the defendant's apartment. Even his truck, which was first used to visually place him at the apartment, was registered to an LLC, which lists a different address. On January 22, 2024, FBI found Richmond at his apartment, arrested him, and searched the apartment pursuant to a warrant issued in the Middle District of Louisiana. Given his criminal history, Richmond is not legally allowed to possess firearms. However, at his apartment, the FBI discovered an AR-15 in Richmond's home, complete with 3 fully loaded magazines, approximately 73 rounds of ammunition. The AR-15 found in his home is pictured below. He's not allowed to have this. After an initial appearance and hearing in the Middle District of Louisiana on January 23, 2024, the presiding magistrate issued an order of release for the defendant. The magistrate did not require GPS monitor or issue a curfew. Rather, the defendant must attend anger management and other treatment as directed by pretrial services, among other standard conditions. On that day, the United States orally objected to the finding of facts and order granting the defendant's release. And here's all the legal standard and all the stuff here. Him being eligible for detention. The nature and circumstances of the offense heavily favored detention. During the course of the violent siege on January 6, over 100 officers were reportedly injured or assaulted. The assaults occurred both inside the Capitol as well as on the steps outside. Additionally, the violent crowd encouraged others crowd to work together to overwhelm law enforcement and gain unlawful entry to the U.S. Capitol. What is extremely troubling about the defendant's role in this attack is his deliberate action and viciousness. He wore full-body tactical gear and armed himself on January 6th. He was at President Trump's rally with a group, and other members of his group returned to their hotel after the rally, but Richmond did not. He instead chose to go to the Capitol dressed for battle and attack. He spent almost 2 hours attacking officers inside and at the mouth of the tunnel, participating in and bearing witness to some of the most violent attacks on law enforcement that day. After fighting against police in the tunnel, Richmond carried a police shield out to the crowd, past the police and went back, used a long wooden board, and ultimately used a baton to strike at officers at the mouth of the tunnel. And here we go. The defendant's history and characteristics merit detention. The third factor, the defendant's history and characteristics likewise weighs in favor of detention. The defendant has a manslaughter conviction for killing an Iraqi civilian, a cow herder who was handcuffed at the time. He shot his victim in the head, killing another person, perhaps the most serious offense recognized under the law. Despite being prohibited from possessing firearms, he's chosen to arm himself again with an assault rifle. His other arrests, while dated, contain examples of lashing out under pressure, such as when Richmond was arrested for drug possession and reacted by committing a battery against the officers, leading to more charges. J6 was not a one-time innocent mistake, but rather one example of a pattern of dangerous behavior or responding to tense situations with violence. Moreover, this is not a defendant who proactively approached the FBI and turned himself in. While his attorney did reach out to the FBI in January 2022, it was only a reaction to the defendant hearing that the FBI had interviewed those close to him. Richmond did not turn himself in at that point. Rather, it appears Richmond tried to live under the radar. His income was untraceable. His driver license and utilities did not return his address. The FBI could also find no address through the mail. The government understands that Richmond has a child and that his parents live in the area. These relatives may be a supportive community support, but this support did not dissuade him from committing crimes on January 6th or keeping an assault rifle and over 70 rounds of ammunition in 3 fully loaded magazines in the same home that he shared with his child, knowing that he is breaking the law and risking arrest by doing so. More so, the government understands that his employment with his father has been under the table, enabling Richmond to avoid being pinned down to an exact location for nearly 3 years, having first been identified by the FBI in January 2021. He presents a danger to the community. Ooh, I am getting tired. The fourth factor similarly favors detention. The charged offenses involve violent assault conduct. The defendant assisted a mob to break into the Capitol, spoke in the wheel that caused the violent historic event on January 6th. Thus, he is a danger to our society and a threat to the peaceful function of our community, even more so now that he's entered another presidential election year, a year that may provoke the same reactions all over again. Poses a flight risk. Richmond has been taking steps to lay low after participation in January 6th riot. Started immediately after January 6, 2021, continuing through his arrest. Richmond dropped his telephone number, the one used multiple times during January 6th, on February 5th, 2021, after photos of Richmond were posted online by the FBI as Bolo 182. Second, by moving to an apartment that has virtually no paper trail, identifiable by the FBI, including no active driver's licenses, no utilities or vehicles in his name, no traceable income. Richmond succeeded in preventing the FBI from verifying his address. Now, the Middle District of Louisiana has not yet filed charges to possession of a fire alarm, but told Richmond through its counsel in Louisiana it was likely to move forward with the charges. Facing serious felony charges in multiple jurisdictions could increase his incentive to flee. Conclusion, that they reverse the order and have him detained pending trial. I mean, it's hard to argue that he should not be detained. It really is. Like, so blatant.